Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. C. Maria, Associate Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication, PSN College of Engineering and Technology. Today, we are going to discuss about microcontroller and embedded system. First, what is system? What is the definition of systems? A system is a way of working, organizing, or doing one or many tasks according to a fixed plan, program, or a set of rules. A system is also an arrangement in which all its units assemble and work together according to the plan or program. What is the example for system? And what is an example of system? It is a time display system. Its parts are hardware, needles, battery, dial, chassis, and strap. And what is the rules to be in the watch? And what is the design process in the watch? The first one is all needles move clockwise only. A thin needle rotates every second. A long needle rotates every minute. A short needle rotates every hour. All needles return to the original position after 12 hours. What is the definition of embedded system? An embedded system is a system that has embedded software and computer hardware, which makes it a system dedicated for an applications or a specific part of an application or product or a part of large system. And what are the application of embedded system? It can be widely used in consumer appliances, industrial automation, medical electronics, telecommunications, wireless technologies, instrumentation, security. And these are the challenges when we are facing in embedded system design. And the first one is hardware. The second one is deadlines. The third one is power consumption. Then fourth one is design for upgradability. Fifth one is complex testing. The sixth one is restricted development environments. And this is the design process for an embedded system. For any embedded system have these design process. The first step is requirement. The next one is specification. The third step is architecture, and the fourth design is components, and then last one is system integration. Here we have top-down design or bottom-up design. Then first step in the design process is requirements. The designer must gather an informal description from the customers. It is known as requirements. The designer must know what we are designing and then to refine the requirements into specification. Requirements may be functional or non-functional. And for requirements, we need the name of the design, the name of the particular application, purpose, what are the inputs we are needed, what are the outputs, functions, performance, and what is the manufacturing cost, and power, and the last one is physical size and weight. The next one is specification. The specification is more precise. It serves as the contact between the customer and the architects. It must be carefully written so that it accurately reflects the customer's requirements. Guide the designer's what to build when it built. It meets system requirements and overall expectation of the customer. The next one is architecture, system design process architecture. The architecture is a plan for the overall structure of the system that will be used later to design the components that make up the architecture. Architectural description must be designed to satisfy both functional and non-functional requirements. Embedded system design process components. The component design effort builds those components in conformance to the architecture and specification. The components will in general include both hardware like FPGAs, boards and so on, and software modules. Embedded system design process system integration. Only after the components are built do we have the satisfaction of putting them together and seeing a working system. This phase usually consists of a lot more than just plugging everything together and standing by. Bugs are typically found during system integration, and good planning can help us to find the bugs quickly. System integration is difficult because it usually uncovers problems. It is often hard to observe that the system in sufficient detail to determine exactly what is wrong. The debugging facilities for embedded systems are usually much more limited than what you would find on desktop systems. Now we are going to discuss about ARM processor in embedded system. The ARM is a 32-bit reduced instruction set computer. It was known as the Advanced RISC machine. ARM processors made them suitable for low power applications. This has made them dominant in the mobile and embedded electronics market as relatively low cost and small microprocessors and microcontrollers. ARM architecture comes in several versions. We will concentrate on ARM 7 version 7. ARM is a 32-bit architecture. When used in relation to the ARM, byte means 8 bits, half byte means 16 bits, word means 32 bits. Most ARMs implements two instruction set. The first one 32-bit ARM instruction set, the second one 16-bit thumb instruction set. ARM has 37 registers, all of which are 32-bit logs. One dedicated program counter, one dedicated current program status register, 5 dedicated saved program status register, 30 general purpose register. The current processor mode governs which of several banks is accessible. Each mode can access a particular set of R0 to R12 registers, a particular R13 the stack pointer, the link registers, the program counter, the program status register, that is current program status registers. Privileged mode can also access a particular SPSR, saved program status register. The next we are going to discuss about ARM 7 TDMI processor. ARM 7 TDMI processor is a member of the Advanced RISC machine family of general purpose 32-bit microprocessor which offer high performance for very low power consumption and price. What does it mean ARM 7 TDMI? ARM bit Advanced RISC machine. T thumb architectural extension. D debug extension. M enhanced multiplayer. I embedded ICE macro cell extension. The next one we are going to discuss about ARM 7 TDMI block diagram. It is based on von Neumann architecture. It has 3-stage pipeline, fetch, decode, execute, 32-bit data bus, 32-bit address bus. It has 37 registers. And it has 32-bit ARM instruction set, 16-bit thumb instruction set, 32 cross 8 multiplayer and a barrel shifter. And these are the instruction set for the ARM processor. For arithmetic, we can have add with carry, subtract with carry, reverse subtract with carry, multiply and accumulate. For shift rotate, LSL for logical shift left, LSR for logical shift right, arithmetic shift left, arithmetic shift right, rotate right, extended with C. And for comparison, we can use CMP as compare, CMN as negative compare, TST as bitwise test, TUQ as bitwise negative test. And for move instruction, we can use to move and move N. And for load and store, we can use LDR for load, STR for store, LDRH for offered, STRH for strong offered, LDR SH for load offered sign, LDRB load byte, STRB store byte, address means set registers to the address. For logical, for bitwise AND we can use AND, A&D, capital A&D. For bitwise OR, bitwise exclusive or ER, bit clear means BIC. And this is an example for ARM processor instruction set. Now we can discuss about the first program x equal to a plus b. Here we are going to load 3 values to the registers. First we are going to assign a particular value in the particular address. For A R4, then B to R4, then C to R4. Then we are going to load that R4 to R0, then R4 to R1, then R4 to R2. Then we are going to subtract as R3, from R3 you are going to subtract R3 and R2. The comma means we are going to add R3 plus R2 and we are going to subtract R3 from R3 plus R2. And we are going to move the result value to the register R4 and we are going to store the register R4 to register R3. The same instructions that we are going to use for y is equal to A into B plus. The next we are going to discuss about memory and I/O management. Here we are going to study about programming input and output, memory system mechanisms, memory and I/O devices and interfacing, interrupt handling. And this is the programming input and output. For programming input output, the first one we are going to need status registers and data registers. In data register, you are going to hold values that are entered as data by the device, such as the data read or written by disk. And in the status register, you are going to provide information about the device operation, such as whether the current transaction has completed or not. The next one is the interrupt handling. Just you are going to give the interrupt request to the CPU. We're going to get the acknowledge from the CPU, and you're going to use data and address this for the particular interrupt process. The next one is memory and I/O device and interface. And this is the picture of how the memory and I/O devices are interfacing. Here we are using address bus, data bus, and control bus. In this, we are having all the buses will be connected to memory, and I/O devices are going to interface both memory and I/O devices. And what are the types of memory and I/O devices we are going to use in embedded system? ROM and RAM are permanent memory in embedded system. And ROM, we are having three types: ROM, EEPROM, EEPROM. For RAM, we are going having two types: SRAM and DRAM. And I would use are timers and counters, keyboard, touch screen, LCD, LED, analog to digital converter, digital to analog converter, stepper motor. And this is the picture of I/O devices, that is touch screen and your A to D converter, DTA converter, and this is counter. And the next, we are going to study about the overview of memory. We are going to have the three important characteristics for a particular semiconductor memory. The first one is density, that is amount of data that the memory can store. The second one is volatility, data storage capability if power is disconnected. The next one is read-write capability, capability to update memory. The next one is we are going to have what are the categories of semiconductor storage cells. First one is static random access memory. Next one is dynamic random access memory. The next one is a read-only memory. The next one is electrically programmable ROM, electrically erasable ROM, and flash memory. The next, we are going to study about what are the characteristics of RAM. RAM can be, data can be written to RAM. It can be stored data can be read at any time. Cannot be used for permanent memory. Accesses to any memory locations at any moment. And so types of RAM. SRAM, DRAM. SRAM is static RAM, stores data in flip-flop like cells, holds 0 or 1 as long as IC has power. Dynamic RAM. Memory cells needs refreshing many times per second, also volatile. And the next one is read-only memory ROM. Characteristics of ROM are it's a non-volatile. Memory is not lost when the power is turned off. Data is stored permanently. Data stored in ROM can be read at any time. ROM cannot be reprogrammed. It having high density. Programmable read-only memory. Types of PROM. Mask PROM, field PROM, erasable PROM, electrically erasable PROM, flash EEPROM. Here we are going to discuss about interrupt handling. The main program instructions are having n to number of instructions we are going to have. So when the instruction n plus 1 is running, at the time interrupt is acquired. What we have to do, just what we are going to do is, just we are going to shift the instruction to interrupt service routine. We are going to have the instruction from the interrupt service routine, do the interrupts and finish the interrupt service routine, and then move to the restore the PSW address, then move to the normal procedure. And now we are going to discuss about what is processes and operating system. Multiple tasks and multiple processes. In process and operating systems, we are going to discuss about multiple tasks and multiple processes and multi-rate systems. Timing requirement on process CPU matrix. Process state and scheduling. Context switching. Priority-based scheduling, inter-process communication, and evaluating operating system performance. These are the things we are going to see in this process and operating system. What is task and process? A process is a single execution of program. A task is a functional description of a connected set of operations. Task can also mean a collection of processes. And next we are going to discuss about what is multiple tasks. Allow more than one program to run concurrently. The tasks share common processing resources such as the CPU and main memory. In the process, only one CPU is involved, but it switches from one program to another. So quickly that it gives the appearance of executing the programs at the same time. And the next one is multiple process. Multiple process refers to the utilization of multiple CPUs in a single computer system. It enables several programs to run concurrently. The terms also refers to the ability of a system to support more than one processor and the ability to allocate tasks between them. And the next one is multi-rate systems. Synchronous tasks may occur at different rates. Processes run at different rates based on computational needs of the task. Multi-rate embedded computing systems are very common, including automobile engines, printers, and cell phones. In all these systems, certain operations must be executed periodically and each operation is executed at its own rate. Next, we are going to study about timing requirement on process. Here, two important requirements are there. The first one is release time and deadline. And release time is time at which the process becomes ready to execute. And deadline means time at which process must finish. And the next important consideration is period, interval between the process activation. The next one is the rate reciprocal of a period. This is the picture of how the time requirements are there. Here the deadline is there. Within the deadline you are going to use the CPU release time and just you are going to hold it. Just you are going to release means you are going to start the release means you are going to start the process. Deadline means you are going to start. Here what are the periods you are having and what is the CPU assign the period tasks. CPU matrices. The initiation time is the time at which a process actually starts executing on the CPU. The completion time is the time at which the process finishes its work. The most basic measure of work is the amount of CPU time expended by process. The CPU time of process I is called Ci. The total CPU time consumed by a set of processes T is equal to sigma 1 less than or equal to I less than or equal to n Ti. We need a basic measure of the efficiency with which we use the CPU. The simplest and the most direct measure is utilization. U is equal to CPU time for usual work divided by total available CPU time. This ratio changes between 0 and 1. The utilization is often expressed as percentage if we measure the total execution time of all processes over an interval of time t. Then the CPU utilization is U is equal to T by T. Next, we are going to study about process state and scheduling. The first job of the OS is to determine that the process runs next. The work of choosing the order of running process is known as scheduling. The operating system considers a process to be in one of three basic scheduling states: waiting, ready, executing. A process can be in one of three states: executing on the CPU, ready to run, waiting for the data. And if the process will be in the ready state means it will be choose to run. If the process will be in waiting state means it be just the waiting state and it will be moved to ready state. And the next one is context switch. The set of registers that define a process are known as its context and switching. From one process register set to another is known as context switch. Priority based scheduling. In priority based context switching mechanism, we have to determine an algorithm by which to assign priorities to processes. After assigning priorities, the OS takes care of the rest by choosing the highest priority ready process. There are two major ways to assign priorities: static priorities that do not change during execution, dynamic priorities that do change. And the next is rate monotonic scheduling. The name is RMS. RMS is a static scheduling policy. It turns out that these fixed priorities are sufficient to efficiently schedule the process in many situations. The next one is earliest deadline for scheduling. Dynamic priority scheduling scheme. It is a dynamic priority scheduling scheme. It changes process priorities during execution based on initiation times. Process closest to its deadline has highest priority. Requires recalculating processes at every timer interrupt. And this is how we are going to evaluating the operating system performance. U is equal to CPU time for the useful work divided by total available CPU time. For example, U is equal to 15 divided by 20 is equal to 0.75. Till now, just we are discuss about what are microprocessor, what is microcontroller and embedded systems, and in embedded system we are discuss about what are how we are having the system integration, how we are what is system, and what are the definition for embedded system, and what are the design processes in embedded system, and how we evaluate the design processes. And next we studied about the ARM7 processor and what is ARM7, ARM7 TDMI. And next we study about what is memory and IO devices. And next we studied about what is process and multiple tasks in embedded system and how we schedule the embedded system and how we are having the scheduling processing in embedded system. And these are the overview of embedded systems in and microcontroller and what are the scheduling policies in embedded systems. Thank you.